Mr. Chairman, I'm not necessarily prepared to explain the bill to the committee, but I would like for the committee to know that there has been some work with the Galat family,
Right.
to possibly add an amendment to this bill at a later date. So I would like to see this bill move forward. I mean, from what I know about it, and Mr. Chairman, you can probably explain a little bit better, but this is a code section that's brought forward for us to be able to name a couple of water bottom areas or some state-owned properties after our Secretary of State or past Secretary of State, Eric Clark. And what we would like to do is for the committee to be open and reticent to an amendment that would allow for another body of the water or land that the state of Mississippi owns be named after Senator Tommy Galat.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. In fact, we were just discussing that a minute ago. He reminded me of the same thing, that we can keep this open and do this. From what I understand, I think next Wednesday is the deadline to bring it to the floor. So if at all possible, us three or you two or whatever, it doesn't matter to me if we can reach out to them. If you can come up with something between now and next Wednesday, we'd love to add it to it. I think it's a perfect time to do it. And that gives you about a week to move with it. Anyone else? Any comments? Okay, we have a motion title sufficient due pass on bill 2530. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, none, nay. All right, we will move on to our next bill, which is 2544. I am going to ask Senator Thompson to explain this bill to us, and this basically, keep in mind, this is a highway bill to get us where we need to be. We gather a little bit more information, but I'll turn it over to Senator Thompson and let him explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2544 just brings forward the code sections pertaining to oyster bottom leases in the state of Mississippi. We had two different bills this year involved that address these code sections. One of them was the department bill that basically the department is starting to transition from having all public reefs to having some more reefs that are owned by private leaseholders. I think it's a good move for us. We're one of the only states in the Gulf that doesn't have a real strong private oyster lease program. If you look at Texas, Louisiana, particularly Alabama, those states have very strong private lease programs. What that does is it gets the individual leaseholder in a vested interest in developing, producing, and maintaining those reefs that have proven a little difficult for the state to do. It takes a lot to work an oyster reef. It's not as simple as throwing material on the bottom and catching spat and growing oysters. Those reefs have to be worked and maintained and tended to after harvest, before you get your next catch. The private sector is very good at doing that because they're financially compensated for it. For us, for the state, having those oyster beds become productive again is good for the resource. The beds, when they're productive, they provide habitat for other species, as well as the benefits that the oysters provide for the water quality. So when I've met with General last week, we've gone over some of the lease terms that we're kind of working through. Some changes you'll see from what's in the current section regarding the leases. On the rate, right now, the rate is capped at $5 per acre. That's a little low compared to some other states. The department's proposed a flexible rate of $5 to $25 per acre to be set by the department. We talked to the 25 is a little high, and also I want to be cautious that we don't have something that someone could interpret as a subjective rate that the department's artificially inflating the rate on the leaseholder. So we're going to work on some of that language. On lease term, right now it's 5 years renewed subject to renewal every 5 years for another 5-year term. That's a little low compared to some other states. They average about 15. So those are some of the things that we'll be working on, and I anticipate having a substitute to put on the floor
By Wednesday.
That we can get forward.
Okay. Open up questions.
Is it fair, General?
Senator Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. what is the footprint going to be of the recreational reefs that we already have, like past Marianne, Stanislaus? How much of that's already got coast material there going to be incorporated into the private lease sector?
I'll let the general correct me when I misstate this, but in the Western Sound right now, we have about 17,000 acres of bottom. Okay. That's just I guess the kind of historical bottom. That's not everything. So we have, of those 17,000 acres, we've got about 11 or 12 available for lease, and we've got 8 that'll be retained by the department as for either public reefs or as some sort of state-owned preserve that the state will retain.
But we will still have a portion set
Sure.
aside for recreation.
My,
Departments.
I think my interpretation, and he'll clear this up, I think Stanislaus is gonna be left as open to the public, is that right?
Part of it. And,
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, what we'll do is part of it will be left up. We have a map. I don't have it right in front of me now, but we do have copies of it, but it's basically, we're just taking chunks out of it and we're trying to put it to where we have a defining line to say these are public reefs, so people understand that and they'll be able to see it and the Marine Patrol can patrol it. We are gonna, but we're keeping part of past Marianne, we're keeping part of St. Joe, we keeping part of Stanislaus, we keep part of all of them, but we're giving some back to the private individual to be able to lease. And the reason for that is we want to be able to share the resource. And also, if we can get them putting, mulch and seed onto that, then that's going to just feed everything else. And then what we put in the water will feed them also.
Right, you're gonna be grafting off of their work.
And they will us too.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it should overall be a net positive impact for the reefs and for the resource.
And we'll still have some areas that are non-harvestable because they're in prohibited waters. And the Eastern Sound, we have not changed any of it at this time because we only have a few reefs in the Eastern Sound. And they're pretty full and we want to keep them as they are at this point and to be able to see the rest of it.
Okay, Senator Delano, I think had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been quite of an issue to some constituents of mine over in the eastern, what I would call the eastern part of certainly of Harrison County. Will we have water bottoms available for lease for some of the oyster fishermen that are on the eastern side of the
Certainly hope
coast?
so.
You're talking about like adjacent to like Biloxi or Pasco or over there. I haven't seen a map yet.
At the point right now, we do not, if you want to say the eastern side, but they are welcome to lease the bottoms that are in the past Marianne, the past Christiane, the areas over there. That's the bottoms that we're working on right now because that's the largest footprint that we have. The others is such a small footprint that it'd be hard for it. We are working to get some more property north of Deer Island that we'd be able to do that with. And so we're working on that with the Corps to try to get some of that property back that we gave to them 50 years ago, and we're trying to get it back. But there are some of the Biloxi oystermen that have already went out and leased it at $5 an acre in the old area. And so they are going over there doing that.
Okay, great. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, in a meeting that we had, I want to say it was the end of last week. It may have been the beginning. Was it the end of last week? We had a prior committee meeting. At that time, we passed my master plan, well, the bill that Kevin Felcher and I worked on, that was the master plan for the Mississippi Sound. And I want to make sure that this is consistent with the master plan. And Senator Thompson, you're familiar with the plan that we put together? Is this consistent? Is this consistent with that plan? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a great bill. Thank you.
Senator Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to get a copy of the Delano master plan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I think we'd all like to see it. If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Title sufficient do that.
We have a motion, title sufficient, do pass on Bill 2544. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Okay, we'll report that one out. Now we go to Senate Bill 2550. Senator Thompson, you want to Explain that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so what this bill does, this is very similar to what we did with the shrimp licenses last year. Shrimp boats are obviously, they're rigged specifically for a purpose. Historically, we used to license the individual who worked on the boats. Last year, we changed it over to where we just license the boat. That way, if you're sick one day and your son wants to run the boat, you can do that, right? It just makes it easier for the fishermen. It's less licenses. And the department can still keep track of where these boats are and where they're fishing and perform their enforcement duties. This is the same concept, but for the crab boats. Again, they're specially rigged boats. They've got their reels and stuff on. It's not like you can use just any boat to run a significant amount of crab pots. So this does the same thing, eliminates the need for the individual license, and we'll just license the boat.
Which is very similar to the bill we did last year, but it was for a different purpose. Have a question, Senator Seymour?
Are we reciprocating on the non-resident?
This doesn't address the non-resident license, except that it has the annual, that keeps the fee. But it doesn't address, like, if Alabama's charging our guys more kind of thing.
Well, we reciprocate with them, but the problem is that our license, when we go out of state, we have to work through Wildlife, who, handles the license for all of it. And it costs so much money every time we change that we have to see if it's beneficial to the state to do or not. I'm working with Director Posey now to be able to look at it like Louisiana. Alabama nuts are good. Alabama had very cheap rates. Louisiana just went up, and just to give you an idea, they went up to like just your regular private license. They went up to $120 for a fishing license out of state. Ours is $68. Well, do we need to go up? We're looking at the numbers, and if the numbers match up high enough, then we will go in and pay the difference to have that change. But if it doesn't, if it's going to cost the state, we won't do it. But if the state's going to make money, we are, and that's what they're working out at this point.
Thank you.
If there's no further question, I'll entertain a motion. Title sufficient do pass on Senate Bill 2550. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, we'll report that one out. Last bill, Senate Bill 2551. Recognize Senator Thompson to explain that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2551 expands the jurisdiction of the department's enforcement officers to include enforcement of federal laws. So this would be like, I guess, federal snapper regs.
Yeah, General, you have some comments on it?
Yeah, sir. It's basically, we're doing it already, and it's just not in our state regulation that we can enforce as federal laws on. And so we're just asking to put it in there. That's all we're doing. We've been doing it. We do JEA, which is joint enforcement that the federal government pays for. We've been doing it for years. And I think it just protects our officers more if we can do it. And that's a 90%.
Any question? Senator Carter?
General, is Jamie Miller here to back you up on any questions that you can't answer?
All right, Jamie had written all this for me and gave it to me.
I want to thank Senator Hobson for coming to the Coast Committee here.
Yes.
That's right.
Appreciate him wondering what's going on.
And Mr. Chairman, like you, we're already looking for that master plan.
Yeah, I can recognize.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Please.
I was, Senator Wiggins beat me to the punch. I was going to say that I'm honored to be a part of the coastal delegation and that I can participate in
Thank
this
you, sir.
meeting of such esteemed members of our coast delegation.
Thanks, sir. No further questions or comments? We have one more question. Hold on. Senator Seymour.
That's the bill.
And this is for lawyers that are hypothetical. What happens if the feds, they have reducted our Go Mesa from time to time, or, different monies from the federal level? What if they are in the future to rescind a certain amount of the funds that you normally get that have subsidized?
We did, if they do it, we'll quit doing
Does
what,
this make us,
no, we won't do anything that we're not subsidized to help to do. All right, just like that, we are having JEA joint enforcement, and we'll do that, If they ever cut it out, we'll quit doing it. And, so we're not gonna do something we got getting paid for.
thank you.
Okay. No further question. I'll entertain a motion. No?
We got title sufficient.
Title sufficient do pass on Bill 2551. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Now I'll entertain a motion. Thanks, sir. We will end this.
Hey, Chair. I got that information we wanted about the light, about you know, the MREP. Remember we talked about MREP the other day and about what it would do for the state and the feds, and I'll get that to you. We got Louisiana's model and I'll show you everything. I'll get it to you, all right?
All straight, all types of do pads. Easy enough.
So the,